Good evening. Called to order the February 19th meeting of the Winston-Salem City Council, and I ask the City Secretary to call the roll, please.
Councilmember Larson.
Present.
Councilmember Clark.
Here.
Councilmember Bessie.
Here.
Councilmember Montgomery.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Burke. Here. Councilmember Adams.
Here.
Councilmember McIntosh.
Here.
Councilmember Taylor.
Present.
Thank you very much. Tonight we typically do a moment of silence, but tonight we join the nation in grieving another tragedy tonight, and we remember the students, the faculty, and the families of down in Parkland High School, Florida. So would you join the City Council with me in a moment of silence? Thank you. And would you join the City Council with me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Recognize our Sergeant at Arms tonight, Lieutenant Rose. David Rose. Thank you for being with us tonight, Lieutenant. May we have item H1, please?
Resolution honoring the 2018 Outstanding Women Leaders February recipients. Whereas, according to the National Women's History Project, it is important to share the stories of individual women who have successfully challenged the role of women in both business and the paid labor force. Women have always worked, but often their work has been undervalued and unpaid. It is important to honor trailblazing women who persisted nevertheless. And whereas Mayor Pro Tempore Vivian H. Burke and the City of Winston-Salem will acknowledge the strength and effectiveness of women leaders in Winston-Salem at a recognition program on March 22, 2018, which marks the 15th annual Outstanding Women Leaders Program. And whereas the Outstanding Women Leaders Program has previously recognized 142 chief executive officers, doctors, attorneys, and women of numerous professions as an effort to shine a light on the significant contributions made by women leaders in the community. And whereas 4 of this year's honorees who exemplify the leadership characteristics are Leslie Alexander, Reynolds High School principal, Martha Fleer, philanthropist and former dean of Salem College Continuing Studies and Evening College, renamed in her honor Martha H. Fleer Center of Adult Education, Addie Himes, retired Winston-Salem Forsyth County School System Parent Coordinator, and Marcelette Orange, retired YMCA Leadership Development Consultant. And whereas the hard work and accomplishments of all women are valued and appreciated by the Mayor, Mayor Pro Tempore Vivian H. Burke, Winston-Salem City Council, and the citizens of Winston-Salem. Now therefore be it resolved that the Mayor and Winston-Salem City Council approve honoring the aforementioned 2018 Outstanding Women Leaders and wishes them much success as they continue their efforts in leading the next generation of women leaders.
Thank you.
Second.
Motion second. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. That is unanimous. Recognize our Mayor Pro Tem Burke for these presentations. I think you've got some folks helping you out there.
The person's going to help the Councilman Adams.
I know her.
I'm just going to sit here and let all of you know how much we appreciate you and the things that women do to make a difference in this world, not only in this country. We are grateful that you are women in this city doing what's positive and upbeat. My council member Adams will now go out. There.
Oh.
If you ladies would just come over, please. First of all, congratulations on behalf of the City of Winston-Salem Outstanding Women's Leaders, and it being the brainchild of Tim Burke. Okay? Congratulations. Thank you for your work on Upper Bound and everything, because I was in the first girls' class with Upper Bound. Thank you. How are you? Congratulations again for being recognized as an outstanding woman leader and being our February recipient. Thank you so much. you do as well. Okay? For being recognized as an outstanding woman leader on behalf of the mayor. Continue to do what you're doing in our community. As you, I always say, women carry the water, so we need you to keep doing it. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Burke, for doing this every year. It's wonderful recognition, and to the 4 recipients, we're so proud of you, and thank you for what you have done for our city.
Yes, thank you.
All right, item H2, please.
Item H2, recognition of the Winston-Salem Ambassadors Award recipient Tabitha Bailey.
I'm going to ask Marla Newman, our Director of Community Development, if she would come forward and present this award to Tabitha.
Good evening, Mayor,
Good evening.
City Council members.
Good evening. Good evening.
We're really pleased to be here to recognize Tabitha. Tabitha is part of the inaugural class of the Everyday Award receivers for the Winston-Salem Ambassadors. And one of the things that's really important about this particular award is it talks about how people work tirelessly day in and day out. And one of the things I really wanted to highlight about Tabitha is the fact that I think part of why she came to their attention is, in addition to the outreach work she does with supporting neighborhood associations and the like, Tabitha also processes a lot of the permits for events and activities that take place around town. But Tabitha goes over and above just processing permits. She actually keeps in contact with the event organizers throughout the period between granting the permit and the event, and then Tabitha actually spends her own time after hours and on the weekends to appear at the events so that she can troubleshoot and be on hand in case anyone needs her. And so we're just really proud that Tabitha is a part of the community development staff and a part of our family here with the City of Winston-Salem, and we just wanted to take this minute to give her a little recognition. So we thank you for this opportunity, and the award has already been presented to her by the ambassadors.
Congratulations, Tabitha.
We were going to say something.
Hang on just a second.
Come on back.
Councilmember Burke and Councilmember Adams.
Yes.
I just want to tell you, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, and again, thank you, Tabitha. For those of you that don't know, I was working with a group, or part of a group, for the Women's March that we just recently had here in our downtown. And when we said we wanted to do this, the first person I thought of was Tabitha. And I told the chair of the committee, I said, well, I'm going to contact the city and let them know that we're wanting to do this. And they were, you know, this was their first march, so they were really, really nervous. But I just want to tell you nothing but wonderful comments. Thank you for helping to make this one of the most memorable marches in our city. We had people from all over the state to come, and everything went off without a hitch. I want to thank you for being present that day, because we saw you all over the place, and they really appreciated that. So again, thank you so much for everything you do, from movie nights in neighborhoods to other things. Just thank you. Thank you.
Councilmember Burke.
I don't know what else to say. I have watched you grow, and I've watched you become a very fine, dedicated city employee. You're an example for others, and I just want you to know when you do your neighborhood association and how you bring them all together and let neighbors know that we respect them, we appreciate them. So we know you, we have watched you, we appreciate you, and God continue to bless you.
Amen.
Here, here.
Congratulations, Tabitha. H3, please.
Item H3, resolution honoring the 2017 City of Winston-Salem retired employees. Whereas there are 79 City of Winston-Salem employees who have retired in 2017. Whereas the collective years served by the retired employees totals 2,029. And whereas all of the 2017 retirees, Steve Jackson from the Sanitation Department has served the city the longest with 44 years. And whereas the work of all city employees is valued and appreciated by the mayor, city council, and the citizens of Winston-Salem. Now therefore be it resolved that the Mayor and Winston-Salem City Council approve honoring the aforementioned 2017 City of Winston-Salem retired employees and wish them much success as they embark on new endeavors.
Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
Motion second. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. That is unanimous. And excuse me, we have a number of employees that are here. Would you all please stand and let us recognize you? We're so very grateful for the service of each and every one of you and your counterparts that we just saw their names, 79 of you, and many, many years of service to our community. We have such a great city, and it's because of the work that you have done for us over the past year. So thank you so much. Anybody like? Oh, I'm sorry, Councilmember Montgomery.
Just to echo those same words of thanks to all of you all and all of those who you represent who've also retired. I have a long way to go to get to being able to stand where you all are, but again, the benefit of what individuals receive from city services because of your hard work and all of the knowledge that you all have. I want to also commend the city manager within the last several years of doing what I think is a good job of helping to get folks around to learn from folks. We know we're having transitions of folks retiring, and we have to get what you know so that the city can continue to move forward and press forward. And so I'm grateful for all of you all, the knowledge that you all have. So for several of you all, your phone might still ring. So please don't hit ignore. Please don't hit ignore.
Councilmember Bessie.
Yes, thank you to all of you and all your colleagues who are retiring. We very much value and appreciate your service. Mr. Jackson, are you here? I just was going to ask him how he put up with us for 44 years. But thank you all.
Thank you. And I know you're all watching the meeting every Monday night here in keeping up. Thank you again for coming. H4, please.
Item H4, proclamation recognizing C-SPAN Cities Tour Day.
Council members and members of the audience, we're so excited that C-SPAN Network has chosen Winston-Salem to their production crew is going to be here this week to help to record the history and nonfiction literary life of the city of Winston-Salem for their cable network's nonfiction book channel, which is C-SPAN 2, and will also be shown on the History Channel. So they're going to be in town this next week. We're going to have a press conference in the morning at 10 o'clock to more formally announce this. But tonight we have with us the C-SPAN producer, Ashley Hill, and I would like to ask her to come forward and make a few comments, please.
Hi, y'all. Thanks for having me tonight.
Hi.
The C-SPAN City Tour is so excited to be here in your community, highlighting your history and literary scene for our networks. I'm going to tell you just a couple things about it, but before I do, I also have to say how awesome and inspiring it is to me to see you guys honor women leaders in your community. So hearing about them and then seeing them recognized is just really inspiring and wonderful. So good for that. As I mentioned, C-SPAN is here. We're working with our partners at Spectrum Cable. C-SPAN has enjoyed a long business and educational partnership with the cable industry. A lot of people don't know that we were actually founded in 1979 by the cable industry with a mission to provide viewers with direct access to their lawmakers. Now, I figure the whole city's watching city council on their TVs tonight, so we can all get behind that. And so we have a lot of resources on C-SPAN and a lot of varied programming you might not expect, but there are a couple things you're never going to see. Number one, use of government or taxpayer money. Number two, commercials. And number three, editorializing of any kind. It's truly a one-of-its-kind service. As you mentioned, we also have C-SPAN 2 and C-SPAN 3, and those house our book TV and American history TV programming for 48 hours every weekend. And that brings me to why C-SPAN is here in your community. Just as C-SPAN strives to make Washington, D.C. accessible to the rest of the country, our C-SPAN Cities Tour looks to turn a spotlight on unique cities, specifically small to mid-sized cities around the country that may not be highlighted on a national level in the same way. And so how do we do that? We have 3 producers. We travel the country. We travel in what we call our local content vehicles. They're big C-SPAN vans. You cannot miss them. That means that we have to behave ourselves in traffic, although I know Ed's not here tonight, but your communications guy, I've been trying to let me like just park wherever on the sidewalk because I'm in a marked van. He wasn't game for that, but we'll see before we're done here. And so we have everything we need to produce pieces for our networks. We call ourselves one-man bands, 3 women here, which was why it was great hearing women leaders honored. And we interview authors and historians, and I don't want to give away our thunder for our press conference tomorrow, which does take place here at City Hall at 10 a.m., but we'll officially announce the stories we're covering then. But a couple of things we're looking at for our history programming, we're spending a lot of time in Old Salem. It sounds like strong women is a good theme for our visit, maybe because we're also visiting Salem College and Academy to talk about its founding and the importance of women being educated and why the city's founders thought that that was important even back in the 1700s. And then we're also going to be visiting Wake Forest to look at their Maya Angelou collection, which is something we're pretty excited about. So we're going to do about 12 to 13 pieces about your city, documentary style as a total, and it's all going to air on a special weekend of programming that's dedicated to your city on C-SPAN 2 and 3, March 17th and 18th. If y'all forget to set those DVRs, do not worry, because it's going to have a special landing page on our C-SPAN Cities Tour website. That's cspan.org/cities tour. I'm also lucky enough that Mayor Joines has agreed to be interviewed for our flagship program, Washington Journal, to give us a sense of the city, and we're also doing extensive community outreach while we're in town, such as going into your local high schools and speaking with students about our Student Cam student documentary competition. I guess I will tell you more about it tomorrow. I hope you do come out to our event at 10 a.m. And I really appreciate y'all just welcoming C-SPAN into your community with open arms. I think everywhere I've went, and anybody who's seen me in my van has stopped me on the street. They were engaged in your community. They wanted to know why we're here. They wanted to tell me where I needed to eat some dinner, or where I needed to get a cup of coffee, or what I needed to do in town. And so we do appreciate that hospitality, and I hope you appreciate how we feature your city on our networks March 17th and 18th.
Thank you, Ms.
Thanks
Hill.
so much.
Councilmember Adams had just one comment here.
Thank you again for being here in Winston. I heard you mention some of the people and places that you're going to talk to. Just don't leave out the diversity of our city.
You know, that's one thing that we really wanted to highlight.
Winston-Salem State University and our just great history of our East Winston and all of that. We got some deep history here.
Yeah, and so I haven't listed all the things that we're covering,
Okay.
but we did go to Winston-Salem State University just today. One of my colleagues was there interviewing an author who is a professor there. And so we want to make sure whenever we go into a city, we want to represent the city as a whole. And so we want to make sure that we're not just telling history from one side or telling one person's story. We want to tell all of the people's story, and that's important to us, and it's actually an honor for us to get to do that. So in doing our preparations to come to Winston-Salem, we wanted to keep that in mind, and I really do hope that you're pleased with how it turns out.
Thank you.
Councilmember Burke.
I was just going to say, we have a strong youth advisory group, which is directed on our human relations department for the city of Winston, and I think that they're an example of how we work with youth and how and what we expect. So that would be a good group. I mean, you can't see them all, but
yeah, I know there is a lot. That's what's great about when you come to a city and you find out and you start talking to people. There's always great suggestions like that. Something we're doing is we're doing social media. Our Twitter handle's at C-SPAN Cities. So if anyone here, like you or anyone watching, has any suggestions of something that we should do or a group we should speak with, we would love for y'all to reach out to us and let us know. And that does sound great, and it's great that the next generation of maybe female leaders who will be honored later here are being encouraged as well.
Thank you, Ms. Hill.
Thank
I'm
you.
gonna say this one thing, the mayor is getting ready to recognize some women in the arts, to bring that to her attention. And this, we're gonna recognize other women in March. And I want you to know I love this city better than anyone else. I've been here 40 plus years.
Well, I love seeing women faces on city council as well. So.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms.
Thank
Hill. We
you.
look
Take
forward to
care.
working with you. Thank you. But Councilmember Taylor, looks like you need to say.
Well, Mayor Pro Tem Berg, I let you get away with that, but this is my city. We would beg to differ on that note.
The press conference tomorrow at 10 in the committee room. Any council member who is available to come by for that. Tonight's agenda of the City Council is comprised of two parts, the general agenda and the consent agenda. And it's always the practice of this council to take the consent agenda as the first order of business. Items on this agenda have been unanimously recommended by a committee of the City Council or are being submitted in accordance with established city procedure. There'll be no discussion of the items on this agenda unless the council member so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered individually. Items not removed from the consent agenda will be enacted with one motion. We're televising the meeting live tonight on TV 13, our own local C-SPAN right here. We'll be replayed on Tuesday at 9 a.m. and again Wednesday at 9 p.m. Of course, copies of our agenda and copies of our videos of previous meetings are always available to the public at our city website, and just click on the Watch Meetings Online link. I know there are two items that we will need to pull off. Item C2, Councilmember McIntosh, and item C16, Councilmember Montgomery. Are there others?
C4.
C4?
Yeah, C5.
Okay. Is there a motion on the balance?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second on the balance of the consent agenda. All those in favor of that motion, please indicate by voting yes. Anyone opposed, please vote no. Thank you. That is unanimous. Now we'll go to item C2.
Item C2, ordinance amending Chapter 10, Division 1 of the City Code entitled Housing Code regarding carbon monoxide alarms, detectors, and mold, recommended by the Community Development, Housing, and General Government Committee.
Councilmember Montgomery, I know you have an amendment to that, but I'm going to recognize Councilmember McIntosh for a comment.
I did want to reach out to the folks who were very helpful over the last several days on this in a very positive manner, suggesting changes that we could make to this that I think work to everybody's benefit. I think it's in the public's benefit to make these changes, and I think it's good for the realtors involved and the property managers as well. There are a couple items in here that we've had discussion on just this evening that we may want to look at down the road, but those are things we can deal with kind of down the road. For now, I'm fully in support of this.
Great. I'd recognize Councilmember Montgomery, please.
Yes, this is an item that has been in committee and discussed. There were two things that recommended a changing to. One is more of a grammatical piece, and the other piece is a removal of an actual definition that exists under Section 1. It was something that had been recommended by Councilmember Larson, and from my understanding, Councilmember Larson is fine with having that line removed from the defining portion, and members of council have a stricken version of that with how the actual ordinance would read, which would remove the specific definition with of a mold as it's listed, and then it replaces under the section for foundation, it removes the word foundation and puts adequate foundation drainage under the foundation section G, which makes those two changes to it as it sits, but still gets to the core of ensuring that we're dealing with the conditions that lead to the issues that were raised and which brought this to the table. And with that, I will move approval for the amended version of this ordinance as it stands.
Very good. Is there a second?
Second.
A motion and a second to approve this amended ordinance. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the motion, please indicate by voting yes. Anyone opposed, vote no. That motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Councilmember McIntosh and Montgomery, for working out the details on this particular one. Item C3, please. Oh, I'm sorry. C4, beg pardon.
Item C4, resolution authorizing permission to accept an ice cream book truck donated from the Winston-Salem Police Foundation, recommended by the Public Safety Committee.
I recognize the Chairman of the Public Safety Committee, Councilmember Taylor.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. I wanted this item pulled because I believe this is an excellent community outreach tool that we will work with young people in the community and help to increase some literacy at the same time. So I wanted Chief Thompson to come and just give us a brief presentation, if that's all right with you, Mayor.
Yes, absolutely. Chief Thompson.
Good evening, Mayor Joines, Mayor Pro Tem Burke, and members of City Council. In 2015, the Winston-Salem Police Department was fortunate enough to start a police foundation. And the foundation is made up of a volunteer board whose sole purpose is to raise money to support community outreach that the Winston-Salem Police Department continues to try and improve within our city. We're fortunate enough to have here the president of our board, Mr. Scott Sewell, in the back there. And Operation Sweet Reads is another one of those outreach programs that we're looking forward to this year. It's an opportunity for our department to work in conjunction with communities, neighborhoods throughout the city of Winston-Salem for the sole purposes of developing a strong relationship between police personnel and the children in our community. The way the program is designed to work is that we'll deploy our truck, our Operation Sweet Reads vehicle, out into different neighborhoods at different times. And the whole purpose of doing so is to engage our neighborhood children all over our city with reading a book to them. And in exchange for reading a book to them or them reading to us, we will then share ice cream with them. The idea, of course, is to develop that relationship between police and the students during non-enforcement, non-contentious times in our community, to develop that relationship, but also to support literacy here in Winston-Salem. We're really looking forward to the opportunity, and we are asking that you accept the donation of Operation Sweet Reads vehicle that is being donated to us, fortunately, by our Winston-Salem Police Foundation Board.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Chief. I just want to say thank you for your leadership on this issue. I think it's a wonderful idea, and everything you said, I'm sure the council agrees with wholeheartedly. I want to take a moment and just thank, again, I want to echo Scott Sewell. They're doing a great job with the Police Foundation and all the men and women who serve on that board. And I want to thank, as always, the brave men and women who work in our police department. You know, I think you do a great job of keeping our citizens safe. We do a good job of getting our police officers inside of the school system. Now, this is another great thing we're doing, getting them out in the community, working with the youth, and helping to improve this city. So thanks again, Chief. Thanks to the foundation. Mayor, members of the council, with that being said, I will officially move for approval of this item.
Thank you. Mayor, second. Any discussion? Councilmember Bessie?
Yeah, I didn't think to get permission to make this remark identifying the person I'm talking about, so I won't. But I've come to know someone who grew up in a rough area of a major city who tells me that the bookmobile that came through her neighborhood regularly was a real lifeline. So this is a great idea. Thank you for pushing it through.
Thank you, sir, for sharing.
All in favor of this motion, please indicate by voting yes. Anybody opposed, vote no. And that is unanimous. Councilmember Burke.
Before the chief sits down,
Chief Thompson.
yesterday, some of us experienced some wonderful singing. For your information, the police department now has a choir,
Yes, ma'am.
a singing group, and they can really sing.
They really did a nice job.
They did, didn't they, Mayor?
Yeah, sure
and the
did.
people enjoyed them.
Is the
So
chief on the
very-
choir?
Huh?
Is the chief on the choir?
No,
She was keeping
care of
time
the
there.
city. But
You
it's
heard-
good. You want to just
You heard Mayor Pro Tem say they can sing, right? Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem and Mr. Mayor, for sharing that information. We, several years ago, the Winston-Salem Police Department had a choir. The choir disbanded like over 10 years ago, and Captain Danny Watts approached me a couple months ago and asked if we could start the choir up, as he had been talking to members of the department, both our sworn and our civilian employees, and had a lot of interest. Captain Watts has done a phenomenal job with gathering people together. We have scheduled practices for the choir, and yesterday was our first opportunity to perform publicly at Galilee during our Black History Month celebration. And again, I was moved by the performance of the choir. This again is another opportunity off the ministry side to kind of reach our community. So our plan is to be able to go into different facilities, hopefully some of our assisted living facilities and some of our nursing home, other nursing homes, as well as some of our nurseries in the community, and be able to share at different times the joys of singing with different areas of our community.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Good job. I want to also thank Scott Sewell and for your leadership on the foundation. You kind of almost single-handedly done that work. And Scott, with a wonderful firm here in town, our Cook Medical, we're glad to have all that here in Winston-Salem. So, Scott, thank you so much. Item C5.
Item C5, resolution authorizing fee simple acquisition by the North Carolina Department of Transportation, an agency of the state of North Carolina, relating to the US 421 Business 40 pavement reconstruction, bridge replacement, and interchange modification project Phase 3, and pursuant to NCGS 160A-274, located in the South Ward, recommended by the Finance Committee.
Councilmember Larson.
Yes, as the Business 40 project rolls along, what we're discovering is, of course, NCDOT is acquiring additional property and refining the drawings and plans as they proceed with the long term of upgrades. This particular project impacts the strollway which will be designed now to cross over Business 40 Salem Parkway, as compared to earlier when it went underneath the interstate. I am moving approval of this. However, I would ask that it be amended that the funding that is generated from the sale of these properties be dedicated to the improvements of that section of the strollway most impacted, that is between Brookstown Avenue and First Street. This is that we know NCDOT will create a strollway. We also know that there will need to be improvements, and we might as well allocate it. This is in keeping, similar to what we did with the multi-use parkway walkway that we created from funds from the sale of property near the ballpark several months ago.
All right. A motion to approve this item with that condition added to it. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion second. Any discussion? Councilman Montgomery.
Just for a point for council members, I'll support this in reference to the council member making it, but I need us to recall and be very, very consistent in our actions, that if we're going to take actions such as this to earmark funds from any sale to go to a specific project, then when these kind of conversations come up, that we're consistent in those actions. And so I want us to make sure that we recall these actions when the conversations come up again.
Councilman Adams.
Yes, I agree with Councilmember Montgomery. We have to be consistent, and Attorney Carmen and staff, we might need some language crafted or something, because I'm seeing, since I've been on the council, all of a sudden in the past year or so, this continues to come up, whereas council members, and I have no issue with it, I just think we need language to clarify what it is we can do and can't do when it comes to selling property and using it within our own wards or within the city for certain projects. We just need clarification on that, because as Councilmember Montgomery said, I might come up with mine and might not be agreed upon by everybody. And we need to be consistent.
Councilman Taylor and then Councilman Burke.
Yeah, I echo the comments of Councilman Montgomery and Councilman Adams. I think this is a good idea. It makes sense. I just want the council to be aware that I did make a similar request when it came to Salem Lake and the Marina Center, and using that, some of those resources that might be generated for community and economic development in the southeastern portion of the community. And I'd ask that the council have the same sensitivity when it comes to other areas of the city.
I was going to say, if you go back and check the minutes, I've always said to be fair. Also, I would advise the attorney to be very thorough in looking at this. And also, when you look at certain areas and you're talking about you're going to take and put back in wards, well, suppose some areas may not have, and then what are you going to do? I think this needs to be researched very, very carefully, because now what we're starting, this is my ward, and this is for my ward. And we have said in this city, and of course I'm going to stand up for my ward, but we have said we need to be fair, and now we start looking at these lines. We all are sort of overlapping each other. So, Mayor, that's something you need to go back and do some research on as well, because we've heard that story before about.
I think we have to be careful.
Yes.
Certainly. That's good.
Yeah.
We do have a motion and a second, Councilman.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, everyone here has expressed concern, and I'm going to express it too. I was just out at the new Jameson Park, and we got a little pavilion that people can rent. Are we going to pass a motion that the $20 we get for that should go there? I think it's a bad precedent to start earmarking everything, and for that reason, I'm not going to support this. And I urge all those who do not think this is a good idea not to do it, because first thing you know, we got to keep up with everybody that goes to Bolton Pool to swim, because that money goes to Dan, and I get the pavilion at Meadowlark Park, and who gets the parking from Bowman Gray Stadium. I mean, we do a budget once a year, and we say, what are our needs, and we try to be fair about them, and we look at everything. And, for example, Miss Adams is probably going to get a little more park money than usual, because we just bought a lot of land up in her area. Well, next year it might be Winston Lake or something gets addition to the golf course or whatever. But I think we're very fair at budget time when we try to look at everybody and be fair with it. But I think to start this earmarking, first thing you know, we're going to have 1,000 designated funds for it. So I just think we ought to sell it, put the money in the bank. Mr. Garrity's going to release his budget in a month, roughly, and we're going to talk about it and get it all done. Thank you.
Mr. Bessie?
Yeah, I hear the concerns. I'd point out that this is not unprecedented. and it is not unprecedented, particularly in the case of when we are conveying or selling property that is identified with a particular use. In this case, we're selling property that is identified with the strollway, and the suggestion is to earmark it for improvements for the strollway. We have done this for similar things in other cases where we, for example, okayed a project that would impact a park and designated the funds from that for subsequent improvements either of an adjacent park or a nearby park, or it was to reduce or mitigate the specific impacts of the action. I agree that we should be very cautious about earmarking ongoing funding streams. I wouldn't rule it out, but we need to be cautious about that. This particular action, though, is in keeping with similar ones that we have done in other cases over a period of years.
Councilman Larson.
Yeah, I would just maybe echo that. We are monetizing an asset which is on the strollway itself. The strollway is being impacted by the sale of this property. And because of that, we know that at the end of the day, we will have to make improvements to the strollway. And so it seemed reasonable to go ahead and take the money that's generated that is unbudgeted right now outside of our normal operating budget and put that back into a project that's being mitigated or damaged by this acquisition. That's what the intent is.
And I'm going to ask the city manager to make sure what you've heard them say up here about what we have been doing. Please bring that list up so I have an opportunity to view it, please.
All right. All those in favor of the motion, please indicate by voting yes. Anyone opposed, please vote no. Motion passes 5-3. Clark, no, it's gone, but you know who they were that voted there.
We know our names.
You saw it there. All right, item C16.
Item C16, resolution awarding contract for advertising services for the Dixie Classic Fair to Wildfire LLC, recommended by the Finance Committee.
Councilman Montgomery asked for this item.
Yes, I asked this item be pulled. There were questions that are raised at committee, and this item in particular was one that I believe Councilman Adams may have pulled last year in reference to similar questions. The comments that I raised at committee were specific in reference to anyone that we do business with, specifically in reference to developing marketing. In light of the world that we live in today, I think that it's very, very important that there's a conversation around cultural sensitivity about the actual product that is produced with that. And as such, as we look at the diversity within organization and the ability to produce that, it raised concerns. And there was conversation that was had with, I believe, with individuals who have been identified here that still leave concern for me in a place of being able to move forward with this item. As such, there is a disclosure that I do need to make before I make an additional statement. As Wildfire submitted their application, they identified specifically the Chronicle as one of the individual contractors that they would be doing ad placement for. And so need to specifically say that Wildfire identified the Winston-Salem Chronicle as a potential subcontractor vendor on this project. However, the Winston-Salem Chronicle will not be receiving any compensation from this contract. If the contract is awarded to Wildfire, the Winston-Salem Chronicle will not charge Wildfire any ads placed by Wildfire with the Winston-Salem Chronicle for the Dixie Classic Fair. The purpose of my statement is to make it clear that the Winston-Salem Chronicle has no financial interest in this contract. As such, in conversations with staff, it became clear that staff had the ability to perform this contract and in fact had the ability to perform the contract and do so at a lower cost than what was rendered in terms of the actual proposal. And so with that, with what I've said, I hereby move that the council reject all bids, responses to the city's request for proposal for advertising services for the Dixie Classic Fair, and that the advertising program for Dixie Classic Fair be produced in-house by the city's marketing and communication department.
Is there a second? Second. Motion and second. Discussion? Councilmember Adams and Councilmember Burke.
Yes, as Councilman Montgomery said, I did bring this up, and I was concerned that, you know, when looking at their bid sheet and their scores, to see that, and there were no minorities a part of their business. But then what really struck me as odd, as Councilmember Montgomery stated, that we could check and do a deep dive and find out that we could do the job in-house, and we could do it cheaper. And we could, yes, use our employees and others, and even if we started an internship with the school system and brought in some young printers from over there at the Career Center, we could do this. And again, I always caution the council and the city, we have to be intentional about minority and women involvement in contracts. It is not about keeping anybody out. It's about being intentionally inclusive. And if the city's not doing that, then who's going to do it? So I agree with Councilman Montgomery that we pull this to the House.
Councilmember Burke.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Members of the council, after we had that meeting, I did have a discussion with the city manager, and my question today would be, who made that recommendation to you before you presented it to us? And also, we know with the question mark that the fair has not been as diverse as it should be. And then we also know that it is a diverse group of people who use that. And so I'm in agreement with the maker of the motion as well as the second, but I need to know, City Manager.
Yes, Mr. Manager.
Mayor Pro Tem, we used our new process. There were, I believe, 4 city employees that were involved, and each one of them separately rated all 4 proposals based on the scale that we gave the proposals, which included 20% for minority, 20% for minority women participation, 20% for local, and the rest was based on price, experience. And based on those 4 scores, the identified company scored slightly higher than the next highest company.
Well, Mayor, I'm just going to say this. It's good that we've done that, but this makes us think twice in how we do what we do. And if we can do it for less in-house, I think that's very possible.
Very good. Councilmember Clark and then Councilmember McIntyre.
Yeah, I just learned of this just prior to the meeting. I would like, if this passes, for the staff to bring, I'm not sure what committee would be, what our plan would be in-house. Because we haven't seen their proposal. We've seen other folks, but we haven't seen our own. And secondly, I would like specifically answer the question, would we, in fact, be advertising with the Chronicle, and would they be paid for it if we do it in-house?
Thank you, McIntyre.
I got a problem with this procedurally. We put this out to bid twice. All the rules were followed twice, and I know we have the ability to pull this back in-house. But if we're going to do it in-house all along, it would have been preferable to say up front that we're going to do this in-house rather than put it out on the street, because I know there's a tremendous amount of work that goes into these bids, and you know, if that's what we want to do, that's fine. But I think it ran people around the roses a little bit.
Councilmember Bessie.
Yeah, I would have to agree that the process has been less than ideal, but I also have a hard time arguing or voting against a motion that will save the city substantial funds when the work can be done by in-house staff. So on that basis, I'll have to vote for the motion, although I would agree that we should carefully consider ahead of sending out to bid whenever possible whether it looks like we can do something more efficiently in-house.
Councilmember Larson.
Yeah, I got to say I'm a little confused by this. We have put this out to bid twice. It has been reviewed by staff. I assume that our own MWBE committee has reviewed it. I understand that this particular firm does not meet our expectations. At least it doesn't look that way on paper at all. It didn't meet our expectations the first time we put it out, that the bids came in. And we were unhappy with that, and we asked them to rebid it, and now here we are back again with the same firm. I'm a little puzzled why that's the case, other than I assume it's economics. And now we're hearing, for me at least, at the 11th hour, that we're going to take it in and put it under our own house. We have no counsel from the fair committee, who I understand oversees the general marketing process. I have not heard anything from them regarding this matter. And I haven't heard anything from our own marketing department as to how they'll execute on this. This kind of makes me a little nervous about that. I don't mind sending it back to committee to get a proposal from our own staff to see how we can, in fact, execute it more cheaply. And if that's a viable option, then bring it back to council under those guys, rather than tonight to dictate basically to our marketing department that they have to bring it in at a certain price or what have you. So my recommendation would be, or my amendment would be, is that we table this, send it back to committee, ask our own marketing department to prepare a marketing plan with an appropriate budget, and then make a decision in committee and bring it back forward.
So, Councilman Larson, are you offering a substitute motion to
I
send
am
this
now
back?
offering a substitute motion.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a substitute motion to remand this to the Finance Committee for further discussions. Comments on the substitute motion?
Yeah, I just, an inquiry, is this a time-sensitive decision?
I defer to our staff, Mr. Rao.
No, sir. We have the time.
All right. Councilmember Adams.
In response to the amendment, again, we are elected to make the best decision for our customers, the city of Winston-Salem. And if we aren't getting the right information or enough of the information, this goes back to somebody needs to be asking the question, why or what or something. Because everyone knew from the very beginning that I had concerns about this bid. That, again, I'm going to stick with what I believe in is us being intentional. And to Mr. Councilmember Larson's question, if the first bid was questionable, nothing really changed, then how was the second bid not going to be questionable? Again, and if we now realize possibly that we could do it in-house, why didn't anybody bring that to us in the first place? We don't just need to be looking at, I know we want to give contracts to people and small businesses, but we also need to be aware that we're the stewards of the community chest. And we need to be diligent on our side to be able to offer the best price possible. If that means our employees have to go to work to do this, then we need to do that. But yes, I know we're in a place, Mayor, where we don't want to be, but these are the discussions that we need to have. Again, I don't think it's time sensitive. I've been going to the fair for 60-something years, so I know it comes every year in September, October, and I think everybody in Winston knows that. I've only seen the advertisements on television, Chronicle, the Journal, maybe my weeklies, Jordan and you guys, I might have been there, I don't know. But I don't think it's a big deal. Our staff has done commercials before. We won an award for doing a commercial of our city growing 100,000, national award. We've received digital awards. So I don't think it's a question of whether we can do it again. I don't just want to see our proposal. Mayor, I'd like to see Wildfire's proposal this way. Because,
Okay. Councilor Montgomery, we're still talking about the substitute motion.
Right. So 2 points. One, I'd ask that the city manager speak specifically in reference to the ability of staff, and I have a follow-up comment.
Mr. Mayor.
Unfortunately, Mr. McNeil is out with the flu that's been decimating city government. But I have talked to him extensively about this. After the first proposal was pulled, it was the first time that Mr. McNeil suggested, that was back in November, he suggested that we consider the option of doing it in-house. At the time, because we were changing all of our proposals, the way we do our proposals to require service contracts to require minority and women participation, we decided, well, let's just change this one and put it back out to bid the way we did. In the last 2 weeks, I've had more conversations with Mr. McNeil, specifically because as Councilman Montgomery mentioned, the proposer here met the goals, but all of the subcontractors are women, and there aren't any minority subcontractors involved in the proposal. And probably maybe 30 to 40% of the people who attend the fair are either African American or Hispanic. So talking to Mr. McNeil, he feels, because number one, because they don't have, there's no profit, there's no margin that he has to cover. He thinks that for slightly less money, he can produce it, provide more ads in different mediums, and use a couple subcontractors to assist with some of the production, as well as possibly even some interns from the local universities that he's mentioned as well. But I don't have the specifics, but he assures me that he can produce it with his staff. He thinks he can do a better product at a lower price.
My follow-up is, my first inclination is not to support the amended motion to send it back to committee and just deal with it tonight. But in light of being congenial, I may support that. But I do want to say very, very clear, and I've had this conversation directly with the attorney, that one of the things that was specifically different in reference to this application, from my understanding, was the listing of the Chronicle as one of the actual companies that business would be done with specifically. I raise that as a concern because I personally have no other reason, no other specific details to reference it. But if we did not make the disclosure that was made specifically, there would not be ability of individuals to vote on this item. And for that reason, I find some calls and some question in reference to that from a practice standpoint. We've had one other instance in reference to this where there was a rezoning action and a developer engaged a council member, and that council member was unable to have a conversation on that item, which took that council member's voice out of the conversation because they engaged them, and for full disclosure, they couldn't engage in the conversation. And so I raise that as a level of concern to ensure that the same standards that we're held to, that we make sure that contractors that engage with us, that we follow that same standard, ensure that that is not a methodology that is used to silence a voice from being able to engage on an item that has very, very much credence in the process. I don't know for sure if that's the case or not, but that's one of the specific things that is different in reference to this.
Councilman Burke?
Yeah, I was going to ask the question, which way were we going to move, with the amendment or?
We're voting on the substitute amendment right now, Councilman. Okay, Councilman Clark, and then.
Just real quick, I do think by sending it back to committee, we will have a chance for Mr. McNeil to make a formal presentation, so we'll kind of know what's going on there. And I have no doubt that we have talented people, but it would just be nice that other people make proposals, we make a proposal. And I just said the fair's in mid-October, I guess.
October.
And so 1 month probably will not mess us up too bad.
Okay, Councilman Taylor.
I don't see a reason to send it back to committee. We've heard from our city manager, who has talked to the director of marketing and communications, who feels like he and his staff can do a better job of putting out the product. I agree with Councilmember Montgomery. I do not like the way in which this matter was handled. To simply just list the Chronicle and then silence two voices, it was completely inhumane and uncivilized, and I don't know that we should continue to tolerate that sort of thing. So I will not be supporting the substitute motion.
All right, we do have a motion before us, a substitute motion by Councilmember Larson to remand this to the Finance Committee. And can that motion come up? All right, good, thank you. All those in favor of the motion, substitute motion to send this back to Finance, please vote yes. Anyone opposed, vote no. And the motion is tied. Well, I think since this is not time sensitive, I think it would be well to just take a motion and take a moment, and as Councilmember Montgomery said, be congenial and address the concern of one of our council members, and I will vote in favor of the substitute motion to send it back. All right. Now we'll go back to the general agenda, which is comprised of only one item, that is the public comment period. This is a time set aside for citizens to voice their opinions on matters that are germane to city government. And when the comment period is called, each speaker will be given 3 minutes for comment, and we'll limit the total comment period to 30 minutes. All right, for the comment, we had signed up for this, Samantha Adams. If you'll come forward and give your name and address for the record, and limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Samantha Adams, 4157 Salem Springs Court, Winston-Salem. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, councilmen and women, and everybody in attendance tonight. Thank you for the opportunity for allowing us to speak. Again, my name is Samantha Adams, and I'm a representative of the International We Love You Foundation. So We Love You's mission is to serve Winston-Salem and the surrounding areas, in the whole world actually, with the heart of a mother. The International We Love You Foundation, just as a little background, we were established in 2001 by our chairwoman, Zang Gilja, and we are a nonprofit organization that promotes unity and friendship among all people of the global village, regardless of nationality, race, religion, and socioeconomic status. We Love You, we carry out different volunteer activities in 50 countries, including blood drives, natural disaster relief efforts, our Clean World movement, providing clean water to thirsting communities, educating the youth, and many other activities as those. The chairwoman and the We Love You Foundation, we've received more than 100 honorary and presidential awards, including the United States President's Call to Service Award, as well as the Great Woman Award in Peru and a Certificate of Honor in Mongolia. Then our goal here, actually in Winston-Salem, is to carry out our chairwoman's vision and working closely with the councilmen and women and the government of Winston-Salem in order to promote a happy and healthy society, working together so that we can carry out maybe environmental protection work or addressing whatever needs are most pressing here in the Winston-Salem area. So we hope that we can continue to build relationship with our government so that whatever needs are the most pressing or whatever it is that we see is where Winston-Salem needs help most, that we, just like the men and women that you honored tonight for serving Winston-Salem, we can also take our place in serving the needs of Winston-Salem for the betterment of the community.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your work.
Thank you.
Next person is Travoris Adams.
Tavares Adams, 4157 Salem Springs Court, Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Mr. Mayor, City Councilmen and women, and all of those in attendance here tonight, first of all, I would like to thank you for the opportunity to speak with all of you. My name is Tavares Adams, and I'm a representative of the World Mission Society Church of God. The World Mission Society Church of God's mission is to serve Winston-Salem, the surrounding areas, and also the entire world by changing and showing love to our neighbors, both scripturally and with beautiful acts of love through various community service activities. The World Mission Society Church of God was established in 1964 by An Sung Hong in South Korea as a Christian, non-denominational church which keeps all of the teachings of the Bible and believes in both God the Father and God the Mother. Since its humble beginnings, membership and church locations have spread to over 175 different countries with over 7,000 locations throughout the whole world. The World Mission Society Church of God changes the lives of many people in all the areas, including all of those countries, by carrying out numerous environmental cleanups, disaster relief, life-saving environmental programs, and consultory events, and many more activities. These activities are conducted to build love, unity, and tranquility to various communities in efforts to promote a positive, more prosperous life for all people. Yesterday, February the 18th, the World Mission Society Church of God completed an in-depth cleanup of Haynes Park and a large portion of Peters Creek, which runs through the park. This prompted many residents and park users enjoying the park to offer their gratitude and thanks to the members. In Charlotte, North Carolina, the church hosted many events as well, including firefighter appreciation events, police car wash-ups, graffiti cleanups, and disaster relief for Puerto Rico. The World Mission Society Church of God has received many different presidential awards from various countries, including 3 United States President's Call to Service Awards and the Order of Merit from Korea, and also the Cambodian government. And also, recently we received the prestigious Queen's Award in the United Kingdom, signed by Queen Elizabeth II herself. The church's history has grown throughout the whole entire world, and we want to share this experience with the Winston-Salem area as well. We want to show Winston-Salem our love and also carry out the mission of improving all people's lives in the community by showing the love of God by addressing the fundamental needs of the community and providing relief for all people. The World Mission Society Church of God looks forward to speaking with you in greater detail about how we can unify together and enhance Winston-Salem's prosperous future.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Richard Miller.
know me by now. You'll never know me. Richard Miller, 626 North Trade Street, Winston-Salem. The mold issue that came up earlier, that's been addressed, and I'm glad that got addressed, so my remarks will be a little bit brief. I do want to advise that mold and mildew are two different things. We have a rarity. Black mold is not very common. And of course, I did want to get into the record. I've spoken with Mr. Larson and Mr. McIntosh about, and to Ms. Carmen about working fireplaces versus just regular fireplaces. I just want to make sure that got into the record, that there would be an interpretation be only applying to working fireplaces as opposed to just a fireplace that has been closed off and disabled. I want to switch hats, if I may, Mr. Mayor, for a minute. This is to my downtown hat. There's been some discussion, some of the arts groups downtown, that groups that have been coming in and getting access to having parades and events downtown, and they're not going through the permitting process. When groups like the Dada and the APHIS do what they're supposed to do to go through the permitting process, go to the neighbors, and we speak to the neighbors, and we put notification. There are other groups that are not doing it, and some, I've been told, don't even have a permit, but they're allowed to do their events. So there needs to be some consistency that needs to be addressed in that, Mr. Mayor, and I would like to see the council kind of take a little bit of a look at that, and let's have it fair across the board. If the organizations that are down here and downtown are doing events, we do need to be consistent with when we bring in other folks that are not regular downtown event folks. They come in from other areas. We just need to be consistent with that permitting process. And that's really about all I have. And I also want to congratulate the city retirees, Mr. Brooks, and of course Ms. Ms. Bailey, Tabitha Bailey. She's well deserving of her award. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Is there anyone else who would like to be heard during the public comment period? Seeing no one, I'll close the public comment period, and I would entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second. Motion and second to adjourn. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion to adjourn, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. We're adjourned.